That's a tough act to follow. On behalf of the family, we thank all of you for being here to help us remember and celebrate the life of William Robert Henry Goodier. The family has been overwhelmed with the numerous cards, emails, and Facebook responses of condolence. We are very grateful, by the way, to John and Robbie, I want to say this, put in a plug, for their loving care of Dad and Mother through their final years. John, Robbie, thank you. After a period of time at a rehab facility, the family was very happy that Dad was able to return to his home at Regal Palms, where he was well cared for and admired as a gentle Christian. A few of the staff, the head staff, are here from there, including his head nurse, and we thank you for coming. After retirement, Dad and Mother became fans of their favorite restaurant on Gulf Boulevard, the Thai Am too now. I'm putting in a plug here. And the owners are here also to help us celebrate. Thank you. You meant a lot to them. Most of you knew, let me make a clarification. Colonel just mentioned briefly the GOP. It's not the Grand Old Party. That was the Goodier-Osborne-Pike friendships that they had back then. Most of you knew Dad as a fellow officer, a fellow Salvationist, a former co-worker, a friend. This evening, though, I will speak of Dad as a family man. His parents and grandparents were devout Christians, and Dad made sure that Joan and Bill and I knew of them, and knew of their devotion to the church. Our family vacations usually involved a visit with Dad's parents in Montreal. And we can also remember visiting his grandparents, our great-grandparents, in Toronto. Music was a vital part of Dad's ministry, and he always carried his cornet mouthpiece in his pocket. And during those long drives to Canada, he would often pull out his mouthpiece and buzz as he's driving down the road. We were the only family that needed a windshield wiper on the inside. Although weak and frail the last few years, Dad was otherwise a physically strong man. He was a Boy Scout as a child. He was a member of his Corps tumbling team, believe it or not. He was a strong swimmer, and we know of at least 2 people he saved from drowning. One was a young man whose account was chronicled in the local paper, and the other was daughter Joan. Dad was rowing us to a beach on a lake in Canada, and the whole family was in the boat. And as we approached the beach, Joan, thinking it was shallow, jumped in. Pretty soon, all that's going by the boat is a little blonde hair. So Dad dove in, brought her back to the surface. We're so glad he did. Thank you, Joan. Let's see, I'm sorry. By the way, Joan says that she learned how to swim that day. Dad had a regimen of strength and strengthening and stretching exercises every morning, which he continued well into his retirement. As a child, I remember sitting on his back once as he was doing push-ups on the floor. During my first visit with Mother and Dad after they retired to Redington Beach, Dad asked me to accompany him on a walk. We headed north on the beach, and it was a wonderful time of sharing what was going on in our lives at the time. I cherish that time fondly. Well, we came to one of those large fishing piers over the sand, and we walked under it and kept on walking. And we then came to a second one, and you probably know they're not close together. We continued on, and when we got to the third pier, Dad suggested that we turn around and head back. So I asked, do you do this for exercise often? Do you walk up to here and back? And he says, no, I usually swim up here and walk back. At home, Dad was our mentor. He always provided the example of how we should live our own lives, and Christ was always forefront in our home. There were always devotions after dinner when we were all expected to read a Bible verse and pray. Dad was firm but he was not an autocrat. He had great patience. And by the way, I believe I'm up here speaking because I'm the one who can best testify to his patience. No details. When we were headed in the wrong direction, which happens as a child, and about to make a big mistake, Dad would calmly reason with us, pointing out possible harmful results of where we were headed. He suggested taking time to consider alternate actions, and it always seemed to work. Dad taught by example. One Saturday at home, Dad came to me with his cornet in hand and said, let's go to the basement and play a few duets. And I was in that terrible early teen year, and curtly said, no, I'm watching TV. So he headed down in the basement, and pretty soon tones came up from the basement. He was doing his warm-ups on exercises from the Arbenz book, and I was drawn. I went down into the basement with my cornet, and we played for about an hour, a lot of duets. He knew how to influence us and guide us. His love of family included the many in-laws, offsprings, cousins, etc., whom are left with special memories. I have one memory I'd like to read to you. Granddaughter Renee provided this. She says, when we visited the celebration of their 75th wedding anniversary, Grandpa was holding Grandma's hand as they were walking into a restaurant for dinner. She says, this made a lasting impression on my children, who saw that great example of a man's love for a woman even after many years of marriage. Tonight, the family takes solace and comfort in knowing that Dad is now reunited with Mother and is again strong and all-knowing. Praise be to God.